Now are we good?
Sound check. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to Season 1, Episode 8 of the Trigger Warning Podcast, and thank you all so much for tuning in to our final episode of Season 1. We are so sad to be filming our last regular episode of Season 1, but nonetheless, we won't be gone long. We will be back to our regular scheduled episodes, with Season 2, Episode 1 dropping on July 18th. During this time, we'll be working on new episode topics that align with our mission, guest appearances, as well as filming strategies, and I'm sure there will be several other updates to come with Season 2. And I know for you, Tori, our month-long break is much needed for some rest, relaxation, and recovery.
As much as I love our lunatics, I'm so ready to take some time off. And I know that this time off will allow us to continue to make the quality content for everybody. But like, as you know, I do have like a medical procedure happening while we're off. I'm totally fine, listeners. Just getting my heart transplanted because mine's too cold. But it is going to be a nice month off to get some things together.
Definitely, I agree. Each and every single week, you know that I monitor the statistics of our show and watch the analytics keep rising, and our podcast hosting platform shares a variety of did you know statistics with me each month, and there were two statistics that stuck out to me, and one of them was that many startup podcasts don't even reach 30 monthly downloads, and also they don't make it to their third episode. And I know 30 monthly downloads doesn't sound like a lot to most people, but for a startup podcast with no management team, no production team, and no heavy influence behind the production, it is in fact a lot. And every single month we're exceeding 30 monthly downloads, and this does not include traffic on our YouTube and Patreon platforms or our podcast website. We're getting the most overall streams from Spotify, which is pretty cool and exciting to see. And we also have 2 people listening in Sweden, which is also very cool to see. And I am just so incredibly proud of how far we've come, especially considering Tori and I both come from a very small community. And we say this a lot, but Tori and I are so appreciative of those of you that have followed us from the beginning, stuck with us through the challenges, and even joined us on later in the season. Our mission is to reach a large community of people who truly need to feel seen and be heard while we take on difficult topics that need to be discussed and that awareness that needs to be spread. No matter the hard work we continue to put into our show, each of you play a huge part in the achievement of our mission. So please continue to follow, share, spread the word of our show. And I'm so confident in all of your support, leading us to other people who truly need our platform.
I'm going to be completely transparent here. I did not fathom us making it this far. Not that I didn't think we could, but because I was afraid we weren't going to gain any traction. So I'm so proud of all you've done because you have been such just the building blocks of this podcast and for our listeners, because without them, we really wouldn't have been able to continue our work. And I want to apologize for our listeners. I have a house full of children right now. So if you hear any weird noise in the background, that's just my kids destroying the house.
I appreciate that, Tori. And also, if anybody hears anything weird going on in my house, it's because my husband is playing video games and it's pretty intense out there, apparently.
I haven't heard anything yet, so.
Good. I think he knows better. But right before we started filming, I heard some shouting going on and I was like, I don't have children. I shouldn't be dealing with that yet.
I muted myself while you were talking because the dog was just going off.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, this is why we need a studio. Maybe someday.
Yeah, someday.
All right, so at this point in this episode, I'm going to share details from the darkest moments of my life. And so you've been trigger warned right now. Again, On our show, I've shared a lot about how the podcast project idea came to me from the beginning to the execution. But what I haven't shared is that in 2021, I started a blog website called Words from Behind Closed Doors. This blog page no longer exists. And in 2021, I went through the darkest moments mentally that I ever experienced in my life. And while going through what I thought was my recovery process from that, I started this blog page because I truly love writing and I wanted to share my story in hopes that it would help others who may be struggling and feel like they weren't alone. During my blogging journey, I started to become a little bit misaligned with my mission. I was more sharing stories about routines that I was implementing into my daily life that I claimed were really beneficial to my recovery, when in reality, and I think I've said this before, I'm not a routine person when it comes to daily activities to try to get myself feeling better mentally. I'm just not a routine person. I never have been. And so I was writing about experiences from implementing those different routines in my life when I was never actually sticking to those routines for more than a week. I did fall back into a dark place and stopped writing blogs altogether. I shut down the page and found the book that I talked about in our first episode, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. And when I'm going to say this again, that book slapped me in the face and helped me regain my focus on the bigger picture and completely changed my outlook on my recovery. I'm mentioning all of this because the creation of my blog website was intended for me to share my real, raw truth and I became so caught up in wanting to display that I was okay to other people when I actually was not okay. But I wanted to be an outlet for others. And with that, all of that being said, my blog is essentially what really led me down the path to create this show, but to be everything my blog wasn't. This platform is for discussing real stories, tackling difficult topics that many self help books or related podcasts might steer away from. I'm doing this because in the year 2021 and much of the year 2022, I was the person sitting on my kitchen floor between 2 to 3 a.m. calling and texting those crisis hotlines. I was that person lost in so much darkness and so broken down that I feared recovery was not a part of my journey. I found hell's basement and I was certain I'd never live to see the year 2023. And I am someone that prepared a suicide note with a message written to each of my loved ones explaining that there was absolutely nothing they could have done for me and that I couldn't fathom fighting the demons that I had to fight every day for the rest of my life. I wrote on the note, I wrote the note in my iCloud notes, and I went as far as to create a separate note to put on my lock screen with my passcodes to check my iCloud notes for the note that I had written, and another note that would allow Mike to have access to all my online accounts for bills, all the usernames, emails, and everything that he would need to have access to things when I was gone. I did this all in the middle of one night, and the next day I lived that day to the fullest. I was so happy. I just had this incredible amount of joy just knowing that I would no longer have to wake up and pretend like I wasn't living through this hell that existed in my mind. I planned out how I was going to take my life down to every detail and in a way I knew I would not somehow survive that. I planned to do it after Mike had fallen asleep at night and had been asleep for at least an hour or two. It came down to literal minutes before I was about to do it, and I had been so certain nothing was going to stop me. But the same brain that was trying to kill me also saved my life that same night. I suddenly started having so many flashbacks going through my head of the best moments of my life with the most important people in my life, the same people who had also been through so many hardships in their lives and needed me just as much as I needed them. Even though I was so sick of fighting my illnesses and sick of having to be strong. I knew I was strong enough to keep fighting no matter what, as long as I was able to fight to be strong for the people in my life that I love more than anything in this world. My parents did not deserve to lose a child. My husband did not deserve to lose a wife at such a young age. My niece didn't deserve to grow up only knowing me through memories of photos and the things that my family would talk about me. But did have to come to terms with the fact that I be in active duty war with my brain every single day. And I've survived and lived to be here for so many beautiful things that I now know I would have never ever wanted to miss out on. And I may have survived against everything my brain was telling me, but that battle is never over. And that is exactly why we are here today, because this is larger than just you and me. There are so many people suffering through the exact same things that I have suffered through and that Tori has suffered through, and that we continue to battle every single day. If you are someone struggling to find light through what seems like never ending darkness, your life is worth fighting for. You have absolutely no idea of the beautiful things that are coming your way. And I know your brain might be telling you otherwise, but there is a life beyond whatever it is you're struggling with right now. And it is a very hard pill to swallow, knowing that you will be battling your own kind of demons every day for the rest of your life. But there are always going to be so many blessings to follow, whether large or small. And you are still here today because you are meant to be here today. There are people that need you to be here today, whether it feels like it or not.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. You are truly one of the strongest people that I know. And I'm just so incredibly proud of how far you've come and what you've continued to do when you got there, because you have gotten through so much. And I'm just so proud of you. I really, truly am. And I've never, like myself, struggled with any suicidal ideations, but I always have had severe anxiety, as you know, which is the most anxious person. And 2022 was also a very difficult time for me. So it must have just like been the year. Was there something in the air?
Probably.
Yeah, probably knowing that what was going on in 2022. But
Mhm.
I was having a lot of issues with body dysmorphia. And I just had my second child 2 years prior. So I just hated what I saw in the mirror every single day. And then I went back to college and I switched careers suddenly. And then I dyed my hair bright red and I began to change. But that change is something that I'm proud of, but something I would never go through again. I was busy with small children, college, a different career path, and I sunk into this state of constant anxiety and disassociation due to just being on autopilot mode. And if you're somebody with anxiety, disassociation makes you more anxious. Like, I don't know what it is, but I would get more anxious realizing that I was disassociating. And I was unable to eat normally throughout this time. I'd had no appetite. And if you knew me, a couple years ago, you would have known a different looking me because I ended up dropping about 45 pounds. And although I felt confident since I had dropped the weight and I felt like I looked better, I knew that I wasn't healthy. And that's when my journey really began. And I was able to take back control of my mental health. I had some med changes. I started trying to be a lot healthier. And then you came to me with this podcast, and now you know me as the confident maniac that you see and hear every 2 weeks, listeners. But look at us. We're wrapping up season one. Neither one of us have taken a forever nap or bathed with an electrical appliance, and I'm very proud.
No matter how many times we've truly wanted to do so. Tori, I am also so very, very proud of everything that you've overcome and the amazing things that you've accomplished. I love your confidence. It truly does shine through, and I feel like you are always shining so bright. And I'm so glad that we've created a platform where we can share those raw, hard hitting experiences battling our demons. It's just an amazing thing to be able to do this. But at this time, I've already mentioned in past episodes, this partnership with Aware Causes is going to continue throughout the break. It's an ongoing partnership. So at this time, I'm going to put the partnership message in here now. Just plugging in our partnership between Trigger Warning Podcast and Aware Causes, we have partnered with an incredibly unique small business called Aware Causes, and that's spelled out as AwareCauses, and that is also their Instagram handle and Instagram page. I can't even put into words how excited I am to partner with this company to provide our listeners and or watchers with the largest discount code they have to offer. That discount code is NOTALONE30. Again, that's NOTALONE30 all together with no caps to receive 30% off your entire purchase. This business offers a unique variety of jewelry and apparel and a variety of colors to bring awareness to different causes. Visit their website, awarecauses.com. Again, that's AwareCauses.com. You will find an assortment of jewelry and apparel, which all have an upside down triangle, and that signifies infinite strength. 10% of the proceeds are donated to charities for mental health awareness and support. This jewelry is made with the highest quality material to ensure longevity, and I've had my bracelets and my ring for about 2 weeks now. I sleep with them on, I do dishes with them on, and I can attest there is absolutely no wear or tear on the jewelry that I have. While browsing their website, please be sure to check out their About Us tab and read through their background story. The variety of causes this company supports is exactly what led me to make my decision to partner with this company. This company fits our brand to a T, and their story speaks so loud to me. So again, head to their website. That's awarecauses.com. Enter our special discount code, NOTALONE30, NOTALONE30. to check out and receive 30% off your entire purchase. By purchasing from their website, not only will you be wearing things that symbolize bringing awareness to causes that are special to you, 10% of that money will be donated to those important causes as well. So if you've had any hesitations, this is your sign to make yourself a part of the awareness. Once you've purchased from their company and received your purchase, you can send them a photo of yourself with your purchase and share your story, and Aware Causes will post your story on their Instagram page. Tori, how are you feeling today?
Honestly, fantastic. I'm in a great mood. I got to watch one of my nephews graduate from 8th grade today, and then my other nephew is outside broing it out with his friend right now. My girls are wrecking my house as we speak, and my husband is in charge of dinner. So life is good. Life is great today.
That sounds like some fantastic little family time well spent on a Sunday.
Usually is in my house, anyways.
Well, I have another funny story about my sister to throw in here. And her little, she can be pretty funny, and she thinks she can be as funny enough to be a comedian. But I think I'm the comedian in the family.
Yeah,
But
that's competition. She can't do that.
I'll allow her to think whatever she wants. But this last weekend, I had a chance to spend time with her and my niece and my mom for a little while for my sister's birthday. She just turned 23, and she calls this her Jordan year. And you understand that connection, right? Okay.
I hate sports, but I do understand that connection.
I never even thought about that until she said that, and I'm like, damn, I really could have had a Jordan year, and I missed my Jordan year. And she was like trying to think of what year, like famous NBA player, and I was just like, give it up. There isn't.
Yeah,
no,
we're not gonna have one. We don't.
29 for this. No. But it was a great little breath of fresh air from the shitstorm of my life that I've been stuck in lately.
Yeah, we even got a chance to hang out last night, which was really fun. It was outside of podcasting, and we're definitely going to be doing that more often over the summer.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. My sister is really stuck and really big on zodiac signs. And even though we were both born in May, she is not a Gemini, but I am a Gemini. And Gemini season is from May 21st to June 20th. And she was born on May 17th. So she just missed that cutoff there. But she truly believes Geminis are the devil and thinks it's unfortunate that I am one. And it probably is unfortunate because at this point, when I check my, excuse me, at this point, when I check my horoscope, I can't decipher if my personality is because I'm a Gemini or extremely mentally ill. I know Geminis are impulsive, use humor as a crutch, which is why I'm so funny, could talk to brick walls. Of course, they don't talk back to you, so why not? And use arguments as flirting. And I feel like I've definitely done that because I've been bored and I knew it would turn into a cute little cuddle session or whatever later. And know little about everything. And that I do not agree with because I know a lot about a lot of things. But
Hmm.
I also make sure I know a lot about a lot of things. I educate myself. So I
Hmm.
get that's for the Geminis that don't care to educate themselves. Some of those characteristics could also be mistaken as schizophrenic, narcissism, and gaslighting. But Marilyn Monroe and Prince are also Geminis. So I could take this as a blessing. And if there's any advice of mine that you choose to take this one. If your life is boring, get yourself a Gemini.
I am a Pisces, which I feel like is just the joke. It's the joke of zodiac signs. But my mom, who isn't like big into zodiac signs and like astrology, she always says that out of her 5 kids, I'm the youngest of 5, that her 3 Pisces are the most loving. And I'll accept that, but I'm pretty sure my husband would argue that point. He definitely does not agree with that.
Do you know if you and your husband's zodiac signs are compatible? Have you
We're
ever looked
both
into that?
we're both Pisces.
Oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It can be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. Like, because we can both be very loving, but we do butt heads. But we have also pretty much the same views, so, you know,
My
take it
husband
day
and
by
I,
day.
Mike and I, our zodiac signs are far from compatible,
Hmm.
actually, which is pretty crazy. So, I mean, look at my horoscope often, and I
Hmm.
have one of the really good apps that tells you your rising side. I mean,
Hmm.
that stuff is really confusing to me. I'm not this diehard astrology person, but I
Astrology.
but it lies because me and my husband are obviously pretty compatible. So whatever. Anyway, so in this episode, we are going to be discussing substance abuse and addiction. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, many people that struggle with mental illness also struggle with substance use. These mental health disorders can include anxiety disorders, depression, ADHD, bipolar disorder, personality disorders, and schizophrenia, among others. Studies found that people with a mental disorder such as anxiety, depression, or PTSD may use drugs or alcohol as a form of self medication. Both substance use disorders and other mental disorders can run in families, meaning containing genetics may be a risk factor, and environmental factors such as stress or trauma can cause genetic changes that are passed down through generations and may contribute to the development of a mental disorder or a substance abuse disorder.
I think every listener here has had some sort of connection to addiction, whether it be themselves or somebody that they care about. And I that just makes me so grateful that we can bring this topic to our listeners today.
I completely agree. And we have our first guest joining us on film for this episode. And this guest is my brother-in-law, Josh. Josh is my husband's twin brother, his womb mate, if you will. I will enter in a cute little picture of the twins together here. And you won't believe me when I say this, but Mike and Josh are actually not identical twins. They are fraternal twins, but they just happen to come out looking identical, and nobody believes that they're not identical because they truly look identical. Josh struggled with substance abuse and addiction during his mid to late 20s, and during this interview with Josh, we will be taking a deep dive into his battle with addiction, relapse, and recovery. And because I've been with my husband for 13 years, I've been here for the before, during, and of course, the recovery of Josh's battles with addiction. But the things we discuss together in this episode are things that we have never openly talked about. This is really his first time opening up about this experience. And I did play a very unbiased role throughout this battle. I am not directly related to Josh, so I was a direct witness on the outside to the impact that his substance abuse and addiction had on his family. And I had to be the bad guy essentially many times throughout his battle. Of course, with Mike being his twin brother, this probably affected him more than anyone in the family. And it was incredibly difficult for Mike to come to terms with the reality of the situation. Mike tried to do a lot to protect Josh, and in turn, he was also unintentionally an enabler. And as many friends and family members to somebody who is battling addiction end up becoming enablers because of how difficult it is to set those boundaries to aid in the recovery from the addiction. Josh heavily relied on his family to both keep a roof over his head and relied on them financially. This resulted in him burning many bridges with his family members. Josh asked Mike if he could move in and live with us on several occasions throughout his battle with addiction. He always tried to reassure us that it would only be for a few months until he could get back on his feet. However, I watched this happen over and over with many of his family members. There were several moments I had to intervene and put my foot down, and it's not hard for me to stand my ground, but in those moments when you're watching people you love so dearly suffer from the impact of a relative dealing with addiction, it makes it very difficult to be the bad guy. And it was very difficult to have to say no to allowing him to move in with us over and over.
We've known each other for a long time, and I've always known Mike to be such a caring person, especially when it comes to his family. And I just know that his role in this was nothing short of difficult. I have a family member that is currently going through recovery, but they are not yet ready to talk about the subject. And I am hoping after this episode airs, and also for others who are struggling going through addiction and recovery, that they can talk and realize that they are not alone.
Absolutely. I am going to go ahead and introduce Josh into this episode now. All right, we're welcoming our first guest to the Trigger Warning podcast. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's a privilege to be the first guest on the Trigger Warning podcast, especially to discuss a topic as crucial, often overlooked as this. I look forward to shedding light on these important issues.
And we look forward to shedding light on it with you. Josh, the U.S. is experiencing the most significant substance use and overdose epidemic it has ever faced. As somebody who has direct experience with substance abuse, addiction, relapse, and recovery, today we're going to dive into your story and your experience with addiction. Josh, go ahead and start us off by talking about what age you were when your addiction started, what your drug of choice was, and what it was like for you in the very beginning of your addiction.
So I started, it all started when I was 21 years old. My drug of choice was cocaine. And in the beginning, it was the best drug I've ever taken in my life. From then, I was chasing that high from the first time I ever used it.
How did you get introduced to cocaine?
I was actually at a bar with some friends, and I had one of my buddies offer some cocaine, and never tried it, and never really thought about trying it. So went out to the car and I tried it, and like I said, it was the best high I ever had. So from then on, it was kind of one of them things where cocaine was my go-to.
Did you, when you were offered this, when you were offered to do cocaine at that time, was there any hesitation at all? Or was it just like, yay, I'm here to drink, party, get messed up?
Yeah, I didn't really think about it at the time. It was just one of the things where I was wanting to have fun, and that was what I thought it was going to be. Never thought it would lead down the road that it led.
hmm Overall, how many years did you battle with substance abuse and addiction?
Uh, Overall, it would have been 10 years.
10 years. And what do you feel had the biggest impact on your addiction?
The biggest impact, it all started when my mom passed away back in 2013. That just put me down into a really bad depression. So I guess I was just kind of looking for something to self-medicate, and cocaine was something that helped.
And Josh, you have a close relative who we're not going to discuss in depth, that dealt with substance abuse and addiction in a very extreme way. And you watched how their battle with their own demons impacted your family directly. Did you think about that when you decided to dabble in doing drugs yourself, and that it could
Honestly,
lead you down that dark road that it led them to?
honestly, I was pretty young when all that was happening, so I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember a few things that, kind of just memories, flashback memories that I have from those times. So I guess I didn't really think about what they went through, and is if that would happen to me. I mean, especially at the first time I did it, I didn't really think. It's not like I thought I would be addicted to it. I kind of just did it just to have fun.
Yeah, and that's what happens to a lot of people. They do something once and don't think that they're going to be addicted to it. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, that leads people down the same road that you were led down.
yeah, it just takes that one
So,
time.
yeah. What do you feel triggered your addictive habits the most?
Uh, Stress was a big thing. Anytime I kind of stressed, it was kind of one of the things where, I was looking for my drug. Drinking was the big one too. Anytime I would go out and drink, I mean, I would go out drink and wouldn't even be thinking about it, but then I'd get around a group of people or my friends that I go out with on the weekends, every weekend. They'd mention the word cocaine and we were looking for it. It's literally just a word. And once you get that in your mind, it's hard to get it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at what point was it apparent to you that you had a problem?
Oh, when I had two jobs and had no money at all. I wasn't paying my bills. I was just straight buying coke. Never had any money, especially when I got paid. It was going straight to paying back for all the drugs that I owed money for the week before. Yeah, my life was just out of control.
Mm-hmm. So those are probably the lowest points of your addiction. And did you encounter anything that you would consider pretty scary throughout this, where either you felt like you might have overdosed, or did you encounter any really scary people? Like you said, you owed money to people.
Yeah, I hung out with plenty of I would call gangbangers, people that hung out. They were Latin Kings, or a lot of people had guns. I mean, you're on drugs and somebody's got the guns. Um, when it comes to the overdosing, there was plenty of times where I thought I was probably going to overdose. Laying in bed at night, or not at night, 8 o'clock in the morning after I just got home from partying all night. Laying there, my heart was racing, and yeah, I'm there. But I kind of accepted that. I wasn't really too scared of it. One of the things where it happens, if it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people experience those moments where it's like if now's the time, it's the time, I guess. And
Well,
just
there was so much pain when it came to, I was shoveling whatever in my nose. Half the time it wasn't even what I thought it could be, you know? It could have been a mixture of baking soda or whatever. I'd be laying there in bed at night for hours with just the worst pain in my nose. Like, it'd feel like there was a hole in the back of my nose, and I'd be laying there for hours trying to sleep, and that's all I could deal with was the pain. It was unbelievable. I wouldn't wish that on my enemy. I don't know, like I said, I think that's a lot of that's just whatever was mixed in there, burning my nostril.
Yeah, it's very scary, all of the things that you now know what it can be laced with and how it's led to so many deaths, which is exactly why the United States is experiencing such a major epidemic, is because things are being laced. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you have any experience with fentanyl yourself?
No, I got lucky. I don't think it was really a big thing when I was doing it. But I do know a few people that have passed away from the fentanyl, it wasn't even that they were doing fentanyl. They were just doing, Percocet, or they were doing some drug that they thought they were doing, and it was mixed. But no, I never had experience with fentanyl, but I'm glad I quit, because I'm sure I would eventually have run into that,
For sure. When did you go to rehab?
I went to rehab back in 2017.
And what was your experience like while you were in rehab?
It was good. I met a lot of people that were way worse than I was. So it helped me realize that I can actually do better, that I can get out of that rehab and actually stay sober. Like I said, a lot of these guys the kid that I was roommates with, he was a heroin addict, and super skinny. I felt bad for the kid. A lot of the kids in there were heroin addicts, meth. I mean, they were way harder drugs than I was on. Sorry. Anything they were shooting themselves up with, I could never do anything like that. But yeah, like I said, they were way worse than I was. So it made me feel a little more grateful when I got out.
Do you feel like you should have stayed at rehab longer?
I probably could have, yeah. There was some guys that were in there for at least 3 months, if I remember right. But it was kind of more up to them when they see you progressing. If they see you progressing, that's kind of like their way to get you out the door. And sometimes the insurance will actually even drop you before they're even ready to go. So that happens a lot in rehabs, which is sad, because for the insurance to be able to say, oh, they're good to go type thing, and then they get out and they're dead, jail, right back in there. It's
yeah. And I'm just throwing this in here. I think you and Mike have a really close friend that's currently in rehab right now, and
I'm not sure about that one.
Okay.
Really?
Well,
I'll have to ask about that one later. Yeah.
We'll talk later about that. He's in a rehab much different than what your rehab experience was, and his rehab is more like he's kind of living his best life. And this person has children, and so he is actually in a completely different state, and the rehab is set up. He's got his phone, he's got his own room.
Nice.
He's able to work out, he is in therapy and everything, but it is the way that this rehab is set up is more like a vacation kind of. And my worry for rehabs like that is that he's away from everything that's triggered him to with his substance abuse and his addiction, but when he gets back to reality, it's going to hit him pretty hard. And that is, do you feel like that's something that is also like a major concern, is when these rehabs build you up and don't actually prepare you for the reality of what's to come after you're clean and sober and back in the same area, back home, back near the people that you were surrounded with before and got into addiction?
Yeah. Well, they say it's going back or playing with your old playmates at the old playground. That's how it was or how they put it when I was in rehab. But the rehab I was in, it wasn't anything luxurious. It was nice. We didn't get our phones. We had one phone in there. We were able to make a call on it whenever we wanted to. But we had, what was it, 3 smoke breaks a day. It was constant group therapy sessions throughout the day. We did like some what is it called? Yoga. We did yoga, stuff like that. But yeah, when it comes to like a luxury rehab, I don't think it's not necessary.
Did you feel like your rehab experience, they did a good job at preparing you for what was to come after?
Yeah, they could have done better, preparing what it would be like outside of rehab, because like you said, it's just like you're in your safe zone, and then outside it's the bubble. Outside the bubble, it's anything can happen. They didn't do a great job doing that, but I felt prepared when I left. It's more of the mindset, and if you're strong enough to do it or not,
When you left rehab, how long did you stay clean before relapsing again?
Oh, let me think about that one. I remember there was a time where I was out and about, and I was trying to get a hold of someone to actually get cocaine. Never ended up happening, but I never forgot about this, because that was one of the times where I thought I was going to relapse when it came to cocaine, but I actually never did relapse on the cocaine. So, but it was probably 7 years, and I started doing actually it was probably a year, and I started doing Adderall, and I got pretty addicted to that.
Was it just easier to get than cocaine?
Yeah, because anybody can get a script of it. I was just buying them for $10 a pop, which was super expensive, but I was paying what I could to get them. I was taking probably 60 milligrams a day. I was staying up for 48 hours at a time, not eating. Then I would crash for about 24 hours. You and Mike know, you guys would try to get a hold of me when you didn't hear from me for a whole 24 hours, and it says I wasn't active on Facebook. So,
yeah. Do you feel like your addiction to Adderall was worse than when you were addicted to cocaine?
yeah, I think Adderall, there wasn't any pain with it when it came to, going to sleep at night. My nose was hurting. There was nothing like that. I could sleep eventually when I crashed. It's not like I really wanted to sleep when I was on Adderall, because I was just constantly doing something. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more. Yeah.
How many times did you attempt to get clean and stay clean before the final time?
I didn't really make any attempt to get clean. I told myself I'd get clean. There was a lot of times where I'd be laying there in bed and be like, "Oh, this is the last time I'm gonna do it," and then I'd wake up the next day at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and I'd be going back out to the bar and getting cocaine again. Yeah, so I never really made an attempt. Like I said, it was more of just say than anything.
So then what was the last straw for you to finally put it away for good?
Last straw was when I'll never forget this. I got a text from my sister, Jen. She was telling me that I needed to be at my dad's house at a certain day at a certain time, and if I wasn't there, I was going to get my ass kicked. And so I had an idea of what I was getting myself into, but I wanted so bad to get clean. It's just I wasn't strong enough to do it myself. So when I got there, I walked in, and there everyone was, and I was given the ultimatum to either get sober or I won't be able to see my niece or my nephews and nieces and nephews grow up. And that was kind of a big thing for me, because those are my life right there. So yeah, I went to rehab, and best decision of my life.
So I know that often throughout your addiction, several friends and relatives, including myself, attempted to sit down with you and shed light on the reality of the impact of your substance abuse and what it was having on yourself and your friends and your family. In my experience, when we talked, we met up at a restaurant, and You remember what I'm talking about, right?
Yep, I remember.
And it seemed very genuine. You seemed very sincere. It felt like you really understood what I was saying. Yet shortly after, it's like everything we talked about was just thrown out the window and things actually got much worse after that. Did you believe in yourself and what you were saying in those moments?
Um, I mean, honestly, I remember the conversation we had. It was, I was pretty sincere in what was being said. It's just one of the things where you get out, or I ended up going my separate way, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, it's easier said than done, I guess. I can
Yeah.
sit there and talk about it all day, say how I'm going to get sober, and all it takes is one little thing to trigger me.
Hmm. I know that it's very rarely ever as simple as just quitting. But what prevented you from accepting the help much sooner than you did?
Uh, I just wasn't ready. I knew I would probably just go right back and relapse and go right back to my old ways. Yeah, I guess I wasn't at the low point of my life yet. That
In
rock
what ways?
bottom.
I'm sorry.
No, that's that rock bottom.
Yeah. In what ways do you wish that your family and friends would have approached you during your addiction that you feel may have had a harder impact on your willingness to get clean and stay clean?
I mean, they could have approached me in any way. Like I said, it was whether I was ready or not, because it's hard. You can't really force someone to go to rehab, because it's not gonna end well. They're gonna go right back to the old way. So I mean, it's not like that you can really say anything to get someone to go, or get someone to change.
Mhm.
It's more of like you kind of just, you got to wait for their time.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely understand that. It is, like you said, it is a mindset. When you're ready, you're ready. And I think that being given an ultimatum is a great way to push your mindset into saying, okay, I'm ready because I don't want this to happen. So, without simply saying, I'm here for you if you need to talk, because so many people say those words and they're not really prepared for the depth of it all. Most people battling with drug addiction and mental health aren't going to be the first to reach out in their darkest moments. What is something that you would say to somebody who is in your position, in the position that you were in your darkest moments?
Um, so my advice for someone who's struggling, the same situation I was in, like I said, it's gonna get better. You just gotta do something about it. You can't just sit there and feel bad for yourself, because no one's gonna fix it but yourself.
How many years have you been clean and what is life like for you today?
Years altogether, I've been 7 years off of the cocaine, and I've been 2 years off of the Adderall. Um, Life is way better. I'm living in Scottsdale, Arizona. Moved out of Illinois, got away from all my demons. I still have dreams about doing the drugs, but those are just dreams. I wake up every day and I'm ready to start the day off. I'm not depressed like I used to. I used to have a hell of a time getting out of bed. I could sleep for hours and days. It felt like, and that's all I wanted to do. But now I want to live life and not just survive it.
And you are on medication now, right? For your
Yep.
depression?
Yep.
Yep.
I take 75 milligram venlafaxine. It's just like a generic antidepressant, but I took a few of them throughout the last 30 years, and that one works the best. I mean, it could take a few, but once you find the right one, that it does work. It really does.
Yeah. And I always want to drive that home because there are so many, when people deal with mental illness and they start using substances, it's to self-medicate
Which is
because
exactly what I was doing. Yep.
it seems like the easiest way, or people are against taking other medications, but okay with snorting something up their nose or buying medications off people.
Mhm.
And I'm fine with the natural way, and I'm fine with whatever way works for people. But as long as people are actively doing something to help themselves, because if they're just sitting there crying, making themselves a victim, that's not the way to push through it. And it I've said so many times in so many of our episodes that medication is not a demon. It's there to help you, and you're going to come across so many medications that do not work. I've been on a 10-year journey of different psychiatrists, different therapists, different counselors, different primary care practitioners, and a wide variety of medications that just didn't work. And it's okay, because not every medication is going to work. And you just have to hold on to that hope that there is a medication out there, and there is somebody out there that is willing to help you, because it is their goal to help save your life as well. So it can be just as simple as finding that person that's going to get you on the right regimen and really be there alongside of you through that journey. And that can go a long way, especially with people who deal with substance abuse when they're self-medicating for mental illness that's underlying. And how do you prevent yourself from looking back and keep yourself on the path that you are now?
This one's my favorite question. I look back at how bad my life was. I couldn't afford a sandwich from McDonald's. I was scrounging for change under my car seat just to be able to afford a bag of chips at work for lunch. I was working 2 jobs and didn't have a pot to piss in. Now I have a savings account. I'm traveling the world. I've been to Ecuador. I've been to the Galapagos Islands. I've been places I never even thought about, never even knew had an idea I'd be going to. I want to continue to travel. I want to continue to live the life that I deserve.
Yes. And I know I've said this many times to you, but I'm so, so proud of you, and the people who love you and have been here through your entire journey, before, during, and after, are all so proud of you and how much you've accomplished. And you are living the life that you truly deserve. And it was important for this interview and for us to discuss this topic, because it is important to show people that there is a life beyond substance abuse. You can get through it, and you can overcome those demons, and you are living a life so well deserved that you never, like you said, you never thought possible, and it is possible for you and so many others.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You deserve everything you've got in store for you. So much of your life. So you have so much of your life ahead of you, Josh.
Well,
I'm so
you
proud
were a
of
big
you.
part of my support team, so I appreciate you in my life.
You're welcome. Is there anything else that you would like to say to our viewers and listeners?
I mean, like I said, it does get better. Don't give up. There's always someone out there that's willing to help you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be a guest on our podcast today.
Thanks again.
I'm really glad that Josh wanted to share his story, because it sheds so much light on the fact that just trying something so highly addictive, even just one time, can lead you down a very scary road of substance abuse and addiction. As time goes on, the more it feels impossible to see a life beyond that. It is so important for me to discuss and share information on ways anyone can properly support a loved one struggling with mental health, substance abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, etc. Like Josh mentioned, the person struggling has to be the one to make the decision to get clean. Nobody can make that decision for them. And interventions can be very successful, but the enablers have to fully understand how their actions are enabling the addict, and they must stop and never continue to be an enabler under any circumstance in order for it to work. And the addict has to be given some very serious ultimatums. And if they don't seem to be ready to fully commit to sobriety, if there is any doubt of full commitment, the risk of relapse is much greater. And when you start to notice a loved one displaying symptoms of substance abuse, it's never a good idea to attack them or bully them into trying to get clean and staying clean. No matter how sad, disappointed, or angry you might be that someone you love is abusing drugs, a softer approach is the most effective approach. Learn everything that you can about addiction, and it's no secret why addicts are almost never open to discussing their use of drugs with friends or family. More often than not, the drug abuse is a way of self medicating. So lend a non judgmental ear and effort to try to understand the reason behind the drug use. Be honest with what you're seeing, because a person in active addiction may completely lack that self awareness. And if there's one thing that you can do to help someone on a somewhat routine basis or on occasion, like mowing their lawn once a week, going grocery shopping just to help them find comfort in what might actually be an agonizing task for them, even if it doesn't bother other people, even offer to accompany them to a doctor's appointment or any appointment. Help them find online resources that provide information on addiction and recovery. There is an array of websites that can be helpful to an individual struggling with substance abuse to help understand themselves, and online forums that allow individuals to share their struggles and interact with each other. The link to sign up for the forum that I found is listed under our resources tab on our podcast website. Offer to accompany them to support group meetings when they're ready to go. Also, it must be understood that rehab is not a part of everyone's recovery journey. There will be people willing to change without a need for rehab. As much as there are so many rehabs out there with great reviews and great success rates, there are also so many rehabs out there on the very opposite end of that spectrum. And that's so unfortunate, but it's still happening. And to summarize all of this, as hard as it may be, acknowledge the small successes and milestones. Don't push or pry too hard, and don't be an enabler, but be an outlet.
I agree so completely with everything you said, but one thing that resonated with me the most was you can't force somebody out of a drug addiction, out of drug abuse. There's just no right way to do it that way. Um, as I spoke about my family member, there was a time where an intervention was staged and it went very poorly. And I'm happy to say that we believe this person is on the road to recovery. Some things happened in their life that almost forced them into recovery, um, which we didn't want it to get that way. But a lot of times you almost have to let it get that far for that person to finally realize and understand this is something they need to do, and it has to be on their own terms.
Mm-hmm. 100%. It's just like many stories we hear of people that struggle with addiction.
Mhm.
I also wanted to dive in a little deeper into something that I mentioned when filming with Josh. We discussed medications and how he had to try a variety of different medications before finding the right one, and he found the right one and has been feeling great ever since. In many episodes, we've discussed medications and how scary it can be to start medications, and then finding the right medication can take years. The stigma attached to taking prescription medications has been with us for years, and it just has to stop. There are truly people that believe that taking medications is an easy way out, or a way of just not directly dealing with the problem. And those people are absolutely disgusting and do no good for our society. And that is my opinion. And realizing that I needed medication in order to keep my brain from trying to kill me every single day was one of the hardest things I'd ever had to cope with. And the process of finding the right medication that worked for me was daunting. I have been overly medicated, but one time in my journey of finding my proper diagnosis and medication the medication that was going to help me, only one time did one mental health care professional tell me that I needed to stay on a medication that wasn't working for me, that I didn't want to stay on. And I did exactly what I should have done. I stuck up for myself, went back to my primary care practitioner, said I no longer want to see this psychiatric nurse, explained exactly what happened, and that my primary care practitioner took it upon herself to make sure she called the place that this psychiatric nurse was working for, and also threatened that if they weren't going to do something about how she was treating patients, taking it up with the board of the state. So there are still people that are going to be gross, are going to tell you, this is what's going to work for you. You're never going to be fixed, blah, blah, blah. But there are still many healthcare professionals out there that are going to stick up for you. So, and it's a very rare occasion that you're ever going to get someone that's going to be like, oh, you have to be on this medication.
Mhm.
After that experience, every single person I've been to for my mental health, I have gotten to choose whether I wanted to be put on that medication. I was explained the medication, I was asked how I felt about it, and if it didn't work within 2 weeks, I was able to call them right away and explain this isn't working. And I usually would allow it to be more than 2 weeks, but that opportunity has always been available for me aside from that one time. And I also understand that prescription medications can also be addictive, but make your mental health care professional do their jobs. Question things you don't understand, ask for alternatives if you need to, report doctors for medical malpractice to both the state and the hospital office that they work from. You have more power than you think, and if you don't take control, you're going to keep going through the same cycle and feeling like nothing is ever going to work for you.
You have to advocate for yourself. I agree with that 100%.
Mhm. All right. Well, lunatics, we are wrapping up our final episode of season 1, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And I can't wait to see you all again for season 2 and show you everything that we've accomplished during our break. And if you've survived another day at war with your brain, you are superior. We are wishing you nothing but peace in your soul, your mind, and another day of surviving until you find your way of living.
And we will see all of you lunatics on July 18th on Trigger Warning Podcast.